I'm going to try a new thing here, and I'm going to call this "What Would You Do?" I have a prospective client who lives on the East Coast, and they're both in their 60s. The husband still works, and the wife has recently been diagnosed with something that an oncologist suspects could be cancer, right? And this person contacted me. I think they had seen some of the things I've done around cancer policies, cancer insurance, and so wanted to understand a little bit more about that. But here's the situation. So they have okay health insurance through his company. It's a small company, so it's not great. And they have some valid concerns that what will be covered and won't be covered, and sort of what does that mean in terms of success rates, right? And so because they do live on the East Coast, they have proximity to a lot of great places where they could get care. They have some places that they feel good about. And so, they're in kind of this situation. So I guess the question is, what do you think you would do if you had the situation? And so, they contacted me. I'm just going to kind of give you the facts. And we began a conversation around hospitalization and cancer insurance. So when it comes to cancer insurance, I don't believe that they're eligible. And because there are two key questions that you have to answer, and that's going to cause some red flags. The first one is, do you have a diagnosis of cancer within the last 10 years? They actually could answer that question no, because there has not been a confirmed diagnosis, right? However, the second question is there any, do you have any medical situation where cancer has not been ruled out? And to that question, they would, of course, have to answer yes. I don't believe they would get coverage. We looked at a bunch of different policies, and I think ultimately, I don't think they're going to get coverage. They could apply just to see what happens, but given kind of the medical record and the answer to that question, I think it's probably unlikely. So then what do you do, right? They could get hospitalization insurance. Hospitalization insurance will pay a nominal amount for if you go to the hospital. Once you're admitted, you get some money, and then each day you're in the hospital, you get additional payouts, right? But it's not going to be significant. If this person ever wanted to get hospitalization insurance, they might maybe make back $1,000 or $2,000 based on sort of their treatment plan. So again, not a good answer for them. And so the next possible thing, and then what I kind of think is maybe the best trajectory for them, because they do have concerns about their medical coverage and what it's going to cover and what it's not going to cover. She is over 65. So I think the best case scenario for her is to look for opportunities to move from this small private insurance. It's a big name company, but based on the premiums that they're paying and the group kind of scenario, even if you have a big name, there are poor quality insurance plans, and there are higher quality insurance plans, even from the same provider, right? So be aware of that. And your experience with that provider when you don't have critical problems like this, it's probably a good indication of what's going to happen when you get into something more serious. So I think their concerns are valid and viable. But I do think at some point she may want to consider getting off of the private insurance and going to Medicare. If she's qualified for Part A, that's going to save them some money. If she goes on Part B, they do. He does have a good job, so ultimately I think they'll pay the $185 a month for Part B. And this is where I think it could be interesting, because she's never been on Medicare, she's automatically guaranteed to be allowed to go to Medicare supplemental without having to go through any sort of medical treatment, or they have to take you that first round. So, and generally, I find that they do take folks that are not, and it may or may not be an issue depending on sort of what your premium is and what your situation is. So I personally think for them, they don't have a conclusive diagnosis, that the best situation would be to get on Medicare on their next opportunity. And there are some vehicles to do that before the next open enrollment period. So that is a conversation that needs to happen. And then go on a Part G plan that will okay, so Part G has two different avenues you can go. You can go to a full Part G, which is literally, there are plans out there north of $250 a month. They can get kind of expensive, but there are good plans out there at around the $250 mark, right? So if she goes on Part G, then she can literally go to any doctor in the country, and her maximum out of pocket, her MAC is going to be the deductible of about $250 a year, right? And so I think that's her best scenario. Now, if money is a problem, she could take an alternate route and go on a high deductible Part G, which would be a lot less. Could be anywhere from $70 to $100 a month, right? But she will have about a $3,000 out of pocket in the deductible, because it's a high deductible plan. So that's a slightly different avenue to go on. She will be responsible for the first $3,000 of treatment. But by and large, that may be much better than having a private insurer say, no, you cannot do a procedure, or paying sort of the max out of pocket for your private plan, which is probably as much as $3,000. I don't know what her out of pocket is, but so that's kind of my view on it. I think these kind of things, this is not atypical. So it'll give you some idea of this. If you have thoughts of your own, I'm glad to hear them and chat about them. So please drop me a comment, and we'll chat more about it.